Welcome to another episode of Lightning Strikes. I'm Vernon Foster, and I'll be speaking with you this evening about another Native American value. You know, in the past few weeks, in the last episodes, we've been talking and discussing a little bit about the values of Native people. Well, we kind of want to continue that because I think it's important to uh, things that are happening in the world today and the things that we are getting involved with, the circles, the ceremonies. I think this is very, very important topic to talk about because responsibility goes beyond our everyday um, obvious responsibilities. You know, we are responsible for our children, their well-being, their safety. We're responsible for our homes, to upkeep our homes, to keep the electricity going so the family is warm at night. We're responsible for maintaining our bills, the water bills, the garbage bills, and all that goes along with maintaining the home. Those are obvious responsibilities. Responsibility I'd like to talk about, I refer to as ceremonial responsibility. The responsibility that we have in the sacred circles or in ceremonial circles or sacred gatherings, if you will. I attend many gatherings, much like maybe you do, and I'm an observer. I don't know if you're an observer. That's important. But I'm a very diligent observer, and I observe everything around me, people, the environment, what's happening in the environment. And I think about my responsibility of being at that gathering or being at that ceremony. It goes beyond just the protocol of what we know what to do when we arrive at a ceremony or when we are sitting or participating in a ceremony. But we never really look at our responsibility as a participant, as a leader, as somebody that's sitting in the ceremonial circle to learn or to heal. We carry big responsibility. I was thinking earlier this evening about my responsibility as a Native American, as a Native man, and even a woman. And I was thinking that our responsibility goes back to the time of creation. Goes back to our creation stories when Creator created this earth and He created the human beings. He placed the Native people on this earth as caretakers. But in doing so, He told us that everything that He created is there for us to use, to implement in our lives, to utilize the food, the medicines, all the plants, the water, the mountains, all living things, the buffalo. Well, along came with that was an exchange. And that exchange was we would receive all the beauty of creation. And in turn, we would be given the responsibility to maintain and to take care of and to protect what we have been given in creation. That means protecting the earth, protecting the water. You know, we look at what is happening today. There is a group of Native people, activists, that I'm very proud of. Very young group, very outspoken, and are willing to be incarcerated, which many have. Many have faced jail time, and some are still sitting in jail. And they refer to themselves as water protectors. Well, I think about that, and I think about the traditional role of our Native people. And that was one of the vows that we made to Creator, although in the new world it became difficult to maintain that value of responsibility, because it kind of got taken out of our hands, because we were not allowed to take care of the earth. Because taking care of the earth means we would remove plants, remove what we needed in a diligent fashion, but always replace it with tobacco, a spiritual action. Well, the more we did spiritual action in the role of caretakers, the more we were prosecuted, condemned, persecuted for doing those things. But that is a promise that we made to Creator upon receiving all of life's beauty and all of life's gifts. Well, here we are in today's society. And we have been a people that have become assimilated to modern day society. Yes, we retain our ceremonies. In 1978, through the Native American Freedom of Religious Act, we were able to give ceremonies a new beginning, a new start, to bring them back. And what came with that is a renewal of responsibility. Well, the water protectors, they recognize that, and they're doing that. But what are we doing? What are we doing as individuals to carry on that responsibility? Now, when we talk about ceremonial responsibility, because I think that's important. I think we need to talk about that, because there's more and more ceremonies that are happening. Whether they're old ceremonies, there are some that are brand new ceremonies, and there are those ceremonies that are just kind of grabbed out of the air, just which is not very respectful, but they are happening. But my thought is responsibility as an individual. What am I responsible for? We know as an Indian person, we're responsible for the earth. But what are we responsible for in ceremony? And not just Native people, because today ceremonies has invited the world to share in the beautiful gatherings, in the beautiful ceremonies. And oftentimes we're given protocols to follow. But let's get back to responsibility. Responsibility starts from within ourselves. How I carry myself. Because everything that I do, my children are watching. And when I refer to my children, I'm talking about your children. I'm talking about the children of the world, the young youth of the world, even those that are adults that do not know the ways of the ceremony but have an interest. So it is my responsibility to become a model, a role model, if you will, to how we uplift these values, how we maintain these values and the value of responsibility in our gatherings. When you go to a Native American ceremony, and I'm talk about this openly, that there are ceremonies that still are only Native people are allowed. And there are some ceremonies in some tribes that no other tribal member, no other tribal person can attend those ceremonies. It is only adjacent to that tribe. So when I think about the idea of responsibility, I am first of all responsible how I carry myself, how I treat you, how I treat life, because that's part of that promise that we made to Creator. I'm going to attend the ceremony. Now, what am I responsible for in attending this ceremony? Well, when you attend ceremony, you have to dress a certain way. So I become responsible for my appearance in ceremony. And when you put on ceremonial clothes, you don't tell dirty jokes. You don't do things out of the idea or out of the realm of the sacredness of the ceremony. So, in other words, well, blatantly, you don't put on a ceremonial clothes and go out in the yard and do cartwheels. You don't do somersaults in your ceremonial clothes. First of all, wearing clothes of ceremony, you wear them with pride. You are honoring the ancestors. You are honoring your people. And you are honoring the teachings of the people and all that they left for us. So when I think back and I'm wearing my Indian clothes in ceremony, I'm honoring Chief Joseph. I'm honoring Sitting Bull. I'm honoring Crazy Horse. I'm honoring Captain Jack. I'm honoring Geronimo. I'm honoring my people because I'm sitting in dignity. And sitting in dignity means I also carry the attitude of ceremony. And that, again, goes back to, well, when you put on ceremonial clothes, there's no room for foolishness. Now, I'm not saying that we have to sit in ceremony and be all stoic and be serious all through the ceremony. No, ceremony is built on laughter. It's built on joy. It's built on happiness. But there's a limitation to that joy, limitation to that happiness. That happiness should come in a conversation with your fellow ceremonial participant or the person sitting next to you or whoever you sit with at lunchtime. You don't talk foolishness, but you talk about everyday life. You're a human being. And we experience things. So we experience different things that we can have different topics about. We can have small talk. But what I'm referring to is foolishness because I hear this. Oftentimes I see a group of men will go off and they'll start talking about women or they'll start talking with dirty jokes and even using foul language in ceremony. Another part of responsibility is getting to ceremony. If you are invited to ceremony, then you come to ceremony, but don't expect the people invite you to pay for your ticket to get there. That's part of the ceremonial protocol, is whether it's a struggle or whether it comes easy, but it is your responsibility to get yourself to the ceremony. Oftentimes, if an invitation is open and they want you to be a guest speaker or a leader of a ceremony, yes, your tickets will be provided, things will be provided. I'm talking about our personal responsibility of going to participate in a ceremony. Don't rely on others to pave your way to ceremony. And ceremony, again, comes with responsibility. So if you arrive at a ceremony and you come early, you might end up chopping wood. You might end up cooking or cleaning or help build something. See, that's the responsibility of preparing to receive something. The responsibility of receiving is also giving. And this is what you're giving. Now, in today's society, oftentimes we expect things on a silver platter. We expect Creator to give it all to us right there in our hand. So oftentimes we go to ceremony and we don't have tobacco. And the ceremonial leader asks us to pray with tobacco. And we have to ask the person next to us, can I get some tobacco from you? That's not their responsibility to provide you with tobacco. If the ceremony calls for tobacco, then the ceremonial leader may have the tobacco for the group. But in spite of that, you should be responsible for carrying your own little tobacco bag. Even when we go to eat, in the Indian culture we have in Lakota, they call it watacha. And the watacha is you bring your own fork, you bring your own spoon, you bring your own dish, your own cup. Don't expect the people to provide your utensils to eat with. That's your responsibility. That's a personal responsibility. So responsibility, ceremonial responsibility is very important because it all is connected to what is happening in ceremony. In other words, Creator looks down upon our circle. And if He sees somebody that is respecting the protocols, carrying the responsibility, then the ceremonial is going to go good for that person or the group as a whole. The other aspect of responsibility is being responsible for other people. It's a choice. And I don't say that lightly because I see many leaders, I'm just going to come out and say it, I see many leaders in shamanic circles, in many spiritual sacred circles. And I often wonder to myself, did they make the decision to be responsible for the participants or those that are participating in their ceremonial through their leadership? Now that responsibility means, as a leader, you are responsible for the physical, the emotional, the social, and the spiritual well-being of your people. If you want to be a leader, because many people want to be shamans, many people want to be in that leadership role. If so, the very first thing you ask yourself, are you willing to take responsibility for the lives that have looked up to you for a teaching or have come to you for a healing? Be honest with you, there's some that do not live by those morals or those standards, and they are advantage takers. And they will take advantage of you. But that there are some good leaders out there that unintentionally do ceremony or lead ceremonies without the concept or without the idea that they are responsible for every participant as long as they are in that role of a leader. And taking responsibility for them means, are you willing? Because you have their life in your hands. Through your leadership, you can hurt them, you can heal them, you can mislead them, you can lead them astray. Think about that. Responsibility. Ceremonial responsibility. It's a big one, guys. It's a big one. So until next time, I'm Vernon Foster. You have been listening to Lightning Strikes. Thank you so much for listening. Oh.